Picture this. The dense jungles of Vietnam, May 1969. American soldiers entrenched in the rugged terrain of the A Shau Valley are about to engage in one of the Vietnam War's most brutal confrontations, the battle at Hamburger Hill. Imagine the A Shau Valley, a remote and foreboding region nestled within the rugged Annamite Range, stretching along the Vietnam-Laos border. This valley, a verdant yet treacherous landscape, was not just a geographical feature, but a strategic linchpin in the Vietnam War's complex chessboard. Its significance lay in its use as part of the Ho Chi Minh Trail, a network of paths and roads vital for the North Vietnamese to transport troops, supplies, and to conduct covert operations deep into South Vietnamese territory. The valley, shrouded in thick jungle canopy and flanked by steep mountainous terrain, provided a natural fortress-like environment, ideal for guerrilla warfare and a nightmare for conventional military operations. Hill 937, a seemingly unremarkable elevation in this valley, would soon ascend to infamy in the annals of military history. The hill, later known as Hamburger Hill by the U.S. troops, was so named not just for the gruesome casualties it witnessed, but also for the relentless, grinding nature of combat experienced there. Reminiscent of meat being churned through a grinder. This metaphor captured not only the physical brutality of the battle, but also the mental and emotional toll on the soldiers. The hill, with its dense vegetation and steep slopes, provided a formidable natural defense, turning it into a deadly arena where the advantage constantly teetered between the North Vietnamese forces and the U.S. 101st Airborne Division. The battle at Hamburger Hill occurred during a phase of the Vietnam War, characterized by the U.S. strategy of search and destroy, aimed at engaging the North Vietnamese forces in direct combat to deplete their manpower. This strategy was part of a larger effort to disrupt the Ho Chi Minh Trail and cut off North Vietnamese supply lines. At the same time, the North Vietnamese Army, adept in guerrilla warfare, utilized the dense terrain to their advantage, creating a challenging scenario for American troops. This backdrop set the stage for the battle at Hamburger Hill, a clash that encapsulated the complexities of a war where terrain and unconventional enemy tactics often neutralized technological superiority. On the morning of May 10, 1969, the air in the A Shau Valley was tense with anticipation. U.S. forces, led by the battle-hardened 101st Airborne Division, known as the Screaming Eagles, initiated what would become a grueling test of endurance and strategy. These soldiers, equipped with their M16s, rations, and a resolve steeled by prior engagements, embarked on a daunting ascent. The monsoon season had rendered the slopes of Hill 937 not just steep, but perilously slick, transforming the terrain into a formidable adversary in its own right. Each step was a battle against both an unseen enemy and the unyielding elements. As these soldiers advanced, the dense jungle canopy offered little respite from the torrential rain, while the thick mud clung to their boots, making every movement a Herculean effort. Their progress was measured not just in meters gained, but in the sheer determination it took to advance under such conditions. The enemy they faced, the North Vietnamese Army, NVA, had turned the hill into a fortress. They were deeply entrenched in well-camouflaged bunkers and tunnels, a network of defenses honed through years of guerrilla warfare. As the U.S. troops engaged in this grueling battle, it was emblematic of the broader challenges faced by American forces in Vietnam. The use of heavy artillery and air support, including B-52 bombers and napalm strikes, highlighted a reliance on firepower that often proved less effective in Vietnam's dense jungle environments. The North Vietnamese Army's guerrilla tactics and intimate knowledge of the terrain posed significant challenges to the American military doctrine, which was better suited for conventional warfare. This dichotomy in warfare approaches was a central theme in many conflicts throughout the Vietnam War. Each American assault was met with a barrage of machine gun fire, mortar shells, and the occasional haunting whistle of a sniper's bullet. The battle, stretching over 10 days, became a relentless cycle of attack and counterattack. Each push upward met with a fierce resistance that seemed to grow in intensity. Soldiers from both sides fought not only for strategic advantage, but for survival in one of the most inhospitable battlefields of the Vietnam War. The toll of the battle at Hamburger Hill extended far beyond the strategic gains and losses on the battlefield. It was measured in the profound human cost, a tragic aspect that resonated deeply within the hearts and minds of those involved and those watching from afar. The U.S. forces, in their relentless pursuit to take Hill 937, paid a heavy price. Casualties were not just numbers, they were young men, many in their early 20s whose dreams and futures were cut short. The wounded, both physically and psychologically, bore scars that would last a lifetime. For these soldiers, the battle was a harrowing ordeal that pushed the limits of human endurance and resilience. The North Vietnamese Army, known for their tenacity and guerrilla tactics, also suffered immensely. Their losses were substantial, a reflection of the fierce resistance they put up against a technologically superior enemy. The close-quarters combat, often hand-to-hand and in the suffocating confines of the jungle, added a personal and brutal dimension to the battle. This face-to-face engagement in such a constrained environment intensified the emotional and psychological impact on the soldiers. The aftermath of Hamburger Hill significantly influenced public opinion and military strategy in the United States. The heavy casualties and the eventual abandonment of the hill led to widespread questioning of the search and destroy strategy and the overall American approach in Vietnam. This battle, among others, contributed to a shift in U.S. strategy towards Vietnamization, where more combat roles were handed over to South Vietnamese forces, reflecting a re-evaluation of American military involvement in Vietnam. The capture of Hill 937, while a tactical success, became a turning point in the Vietnam War's narrative. The battle's high cost, both in human lives and material, and the subsequent decision to abandon the hill, highlighted the limitations and often contradictory nature of U.S. military strategy in Vietnam. The battle at Hamburger Hill thus transformed it into a symbol of the broader challenges and ethical dilemmas faced in the war, influencing future military strategies and leaving an indelible mark on the collective memory of those involved in the public. On May 20th, 1969, the grueling 10-day battle culminated in the capture of Hill 937 by U.S. forces. This moment, however, was far from a clear-cut victory. It was met with complex emotions, relief mixed with profound ambivalence, reflecting the immense human and material cost. The subsequent abandonment of the hill soon after its capture only intensified the controversy, raising critical questions about the strategic rationale of such costly engagements. This decision, seemingly undermining the sacrifices of the soldiers, epitomized the broader strategic and moral quandaries of the Vietnam War. It highlighted the difficult balance between military objectives and the ground realities of an unconventional and increasingly unpopular conflict. The battle at Hamburger Hill, thus, became more than a military confrontation. It evolved into a symbol of the Vietnam War's futility and brutality. It illustrated the harsh realities of a conflict fought not just against an enemy force, but against challenging terrain, shifting political goals, and the limitations of traditional warfare. This battle, with its heavy casualties and contested tactical significance, left an enduring mark on military strategy and public consciousness. It served as a stark reminder of the complexities and tragedies of war, shaping perceptions and attitudes towards the Vietnam conflict and echoing as a powerful testament to the sacrifices and resilience of those who fought.